Imagine this. You spend your entire life believing that kindness is the path to happiness, to success, to love. You give, you forgive. You bend so others don't break, because that's what good people do, right? But then comes the betrayal. Not once, not twice, but every time you thought kindness would change someone, it changed you. It made you smaller, softer, easier to hurt. And what if I told you this isn't new? Some of the greatest downfalls in history didn't begin with cruelty. They began with hearts that were too soft, with leaders who forgave too freely, with people who mistook goodness for protection and paid for it with everything. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this. He said, "A prince can forgive, but he must never forget." He didn't preach coldness, he preached clarity. Because kindness without strength is suicide, and forgiveness without memory is surrender. This kind of forgiveness doesn't invite repeated harm. It's not weakness dressed as virtue. It's forgiveness as a weapon, a delay, a ledger entry, a setup for justice at the right time. One forgives to feel better, the other forgives to stay powerful. So ask yourself this: have you been forgiving to move on? Or have you been forgiving to survive? Because in a world ruled by wolves, kindness without memory is an invitation to be devoured. So the real question is, are you forgiving to feel better, or are you forgiving to be devoured? Because in a world ruled by wolves, you either remember strategically, or you bleed beautifully. We're taught from childhood, be generous, be forgiving, put others before yourself. And it's true, kindness can heal, unite, and restore. But no one talks about the other side of kindness, the darker side. What happens when kindness is exploited? What happens when being good makes you the easiest one to hurt? Machiavelli once asked the question no one dared to answer. Is it better to be loved or feared? Most would say, loved, of course. But love is an emotion, fleeting, unreliable. People love based on what you give, how you make them feel, and feelings change. Fear, on the other hand, not terror, but strategic fear, creates stability. It commands respect, it sets boundaries, it prevents betrayal. Forgiveness, Machiavelli warned, is not freedom. It's surrender, unless it serves a purpose. And revenge, it's not rage, it's balance. The wise don't forgive and forget, they remember. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Because in politics, in war, in life, clarity is survival. The fool returns to the jaws that once crushed him and calls it healing. But the strategist studies the beast that bit him, learns its hunger, and sharpens steel in silence. He does not cry to be understood. He turns pain into preparation. Forgiveness removes the teeth from the fox and the lion. And when your enemies realize there's no price for betrayal, they don't fear you. They forget you. And that is the death of power. True revenge is not destruction. It is resurrection. It is rising so high that your name becomes thunder in their minds. And you do that by remembering, not in sand, but in stone. Julius Caesar forgave his enemies. He believed mercy would win loyalty. But those very men, the ones he pardoned, plunged knives into his back. Not because he was cruel, but because he was too kind. And if history teaches us anything, it's this: uncalculated forgiveness doesn't heal, it invites betrayal. But this isn't just about ancient Rome, this is your life. Have you ever been too kind, only to be used? Forgiven the same person over and over, hoping they'd finally change, only to be hurt again? Here's the truth: there are two kinds of memory. One keeps you trapped in the past, reliving pain. The other builds you thrown out of it. You must choose the second. You must remember with purpose, not to suffer, but to design consequences. To become the architect of your own defense, not the victim of repetition. Every scar you carry is a lesson in disguise. Every betrayal is a blueprint. The people who hurt you unknowingly wrote your strategy manual with their own hands. Forgive them blindly, and you burn that manual, remember, and you use it. Kindness without boundaries doesn't earn you respect. It breeds entitlement. The more you give without demanding anything in return, the more they expect, and the less they value. So ask yourself, are you being kind, or are you being erased? Machiavelli never opposed kindness. What he opposed was naivete. To be good without understanding power is like walking into battle unarmed. The world doesn't reward blind generosity. It exploits it. It punishes those who are too forgiving, too trusting, those who mistake silence for a healing. Don't be the noble fool. Don't throw away your pain just to look healed. True healing isn't forgetting. It's transformation. It's becoming untouchable through understanding. Forgiveness may soothe your heart, but memory arms your mind. And in this world, it's the mind, not the heart, that wins wars. So remember the lies, the disloyalty, the ones who clapped when you failed. Not to hate them, but to never trust them again. In politics, a second chance is just a second chance to be destroyed. And life isn't much different. Your enemies will dress their guilt in flowers. They'll call you heartless because you still remember. Let them. It means your silence makes them uneasy. Your calm makes them tremble. And that is power. Forgiveness is for saints. And sainthood is earned in martyrdom. But you're not here to be martyred. You're here to win, to build, to reign. And for that, you need memory, unforgiving, unapologetic. And when the moment comes, when your throne is built and their guard is down, deliver justice with elegance, and never speak of it again. That's how power moves. That's how kings rule. That's how Machiavellian minds endure. Real kindness isn't always saying yes. It's not forgiving everyone. It's not burning yourself just to keep others warm. True kindness, the kind that earns respect, not pity, is knowing when to give and when to hold back. It's helping without draining yourself. It's being generous without self-destruction. But the moment you set boundaries, the moment you say enough, they'll call you cold. They'll say you're heartless. They'll accuse you of holding a grudge. But don't be fooled. That's not the language of virtue. That's the language of guilt. You're not the one they fear. It's your memory they can't escape. Your refusal to forget exposes their lies. Your silence becomes a mirror they can't look into, and so they try to shame you, to make you doubt yourself, to turn your strength into something you question. Don't. Their accusations are the clearest proof of your power. Because weak men forgive just to feel noble, but strong men, they remember. Not to stay angry, but to never be played twice. Kindness without wisdom is weakness, and forgiveness, when misused, is just surrender dressed in virtue. So let them call you cruel. Let them whisper that you've changed. Because you have, you've become someone who remembers. Someone who's kind with intention, not naivety. And that is the kind of person no one dares to cross twice. Human beings respond to reward. That's psychology, not morality. Give too much, too freely, and people stop valuing what you offer. They stop seeing it as generosity. They start expecting it. Entitlement is born where boundaries are absent. And when you finally set those boundaries, they take it as an insult. Because you've changed the rules, and now they have to earn what was once free. The more accessible you are, the less respected you become. This world doesn't reward purity. It rewards strategy. And memory is the root of all strategy. A prince who forgets his history invites invasion. A leader who forgives betrayal without consequence teaches his followers to become traitors. Don't let mercy erode your discipline. Sentimentality is the death of kings. If you want to rule your life, your mind, your empire, you must abandon the need to be loved and embrace the necessity to be respected, feared, even, if that's what it takes. And respect, it's not built on forgiveness. It's built on clear, enforced boundaries. Every insult is data. Every lie is evidence. Every betrayal is a lesson. When someone lies to you, believe them the first time. When they betray you, reward them with distance. This isn't cruelty. This is clarity. And clarity is the most ruthless force in the world. It leaves no room for a fantasy. No space for wishful thinking. Only truth. And that is where power begins. Boundaries don't make you cruel. They make your kindness valuable. The people who truly care about you, they'll respect your limits. The ones who don't will get angry the moment you say no. Let them. Don't waste your energy confronting those who hurt you. Let them live inside the theater of your silence. Let your absence echo louder than your words ever could. But inside your mind, in the private halls no one sees, build a vault where nothing is forgotten. Your memory becomes your fortress. Your discipline becomes your army, your composure, your blade. And when they return, as they always do, they must face a version of you they can no longer access. That is revenge. That is victory. Forgiveness may soothe your ego in the short term, but memory builds your throne. You cannot lead your life with softness, not in a world full of wolves. Yes, be polite. Yes, be civilized. But behind your smile, keep a full record of what they did, ready to inform every decision. Never let the same hand strike you twice. Never let the same voice poison your ears again. And never under any condition let your desire for peace outweigh your need for strength. Because peace bought by forgetfulness is always temporary. But power built on memory, that's eternal. Understand this clearly. The world doesn't forgive the weak. It forgets them. But it remembers the cold, calculating, unbreakable soul, who rose from betrayal, not by forgiving it, but by mastering it. Kindness isn't weakness. In fact, the most powerful form of kindness is the one that's chosen, not forced. Kindness that's never mistaken for weakness. Be kind, but not naive. Be wise, but not passive. Forgive only when it strengthens your position, and always, always remember, because forgetting is a luxury only fools can afford. This is how you build a legacy, not on the ashes of what was done to you, but on the fire of what you will never allow again. Let others preach mercy. Let them wave the white flag while they bleed. But you carry no flag. You carry memory, not to start war blindly, but to lead with precision, with awareness, with ruthless clarity. That is your power. Don't surrender it. Don't dilute it. And above all, don't forget it. Because forgiveness is for the weak. And you remember everything. A man who remembers doesn't have to chase revenge. He becomes revenge, his presence, his silence, his success. These are not accidents. They're executions, calculated, cold, unapologetic. In leadership, you don't need to yell. You don't need to punish every offense. You just need to remember, publicly, quietly, relentlessly. A prince who forgets is eaten by his court. A man who forgives too much becomes entertainment for his enemies. But a ruler who remembers even in silence is feared. Because people don't fear punishment, they fear consequence. And nothing creates consequence like weaponized memory. Here's the final truth. You don't need to stop being kind. You only need to stop being kind to those who don't value it. Remember this. Give, but only to those who appreciate it. Forgive, but never forget. Say no, not because you're cruel, but because you respect yourself. If you run an empire, whether it's a business, a family, or your own mind, you must understand one thing. People will test your limits. They learn by watching what you tolerate. And the more you forgive, the further they push. Every time you let something slide, you're training them to go farther next time. Betrayal doesn't always arrive in dramatic events. Sometimes it sneaks in through small compromises, half-truths, subtle disrespect, and repeated mistakes dressed as accidents. And every time you forgive, you're saying, I'm weak, I'm forgettable. You can do it again, but when you remember, when you track every deviation, when you nod, but never forget, you become unpredictable. And nothing is more dangerous than a silent man with a ledger. That's leadership, not rage, not emotional outbursts, but controlled memory, coldly executed. Let's be clear. Relationships are not exempt from this law. Love doesn't mean blindness. Loyalty doesn't mean amnesia. If someone says they love you, but hurts you in patterns, not moments, they deserve to meet the coldest version of you. Don't explain what they already know. Don't beg them to change. Just remember and walk away. Like the emperor of your own life, nothing destroys a traitor faster than being ignored by the one they can no longer deceive. You don't need to burn it all down. Sometimes, you punish them simply by thriving in a world they're no longer allowed to touch. But to do that, you must remember, forgive them, and you invite the storm again, forget, and you become its next victim. True revenge isn't loud. It isn't violent. It isn't even revenge. It's becoming untouchable. And when your enemies realize you carry no hatred, only perfect memory, that's when they fear you most. Because hatred fades, but memory, it only sharpens. Machiavellian revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about building yourself so completely that your absence haunts them. They see your face in every door they can't walk through, in every level they failed to reach, in every silence where your trust used to live. That's not cruelty. That's justice. That's strategy. You're not here to hand out mercy. You're here to become something unreachable. So remember who betrayed you, who used you, who smiled while stabbing you in the back. Then rise, not in rage, but in refinement. You owe no one forgiveness. But you owe yourself a memory so sharp, it turns pain into precision. Because in the end, the world doesn't remember who forgave the most. It remembers who built their empire from ash and never burned again. Don't mistake remembering for suffering. Weak men suffer. Strong men observe, study, and evolve. You are not here to be soft. You are here to be unforgettable.